Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I was here at Sundance 13 years ago with my first feature film. Without Sundance, I wouldn't be a filmmaker. And I discovered when I was presenting my film that I was expecting my first child. And all the dreams I had during this pregnancy inspired this film. Now my kid is 13, and so it's like coming home in a way. I thought this film was science fiction until, I want to read something so I don't misquote, until last year Elon Musk tweeted that there is a decline in birth, and he had fears about population collapse. So he tweeted, if there aren't enough people for Earth, then there definitely won't be enough people for Mars. And I thought, okay, I didn't write science fiction, this is actually happening. And there's a tech investor who replied to his tweet, we should be investing in technology that makes having kids much faster, much easier, cheaper, and accessible. Synthetic wombs. So living in America actually is a bit of a sci-fi journey. And this is actually a documentary now, it's not science fiction. Thank you.
It is my pleasure to bring back up to the stage writer and director of The Pod Generation, Sophie Barthes. I'll get started with just a couple of questions and then I'll open it up to you guys in a few minutes. So, when I first saw this film, I kept thinking about that really old school egg project in home ec. Can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration for this idea?
Well, I think it was my own pregnancy and giving birth in New York, which felt like science fiction.
This is obviously a little bit more advanced than the egg project. The world that you created here is so specific and it feels very grounded, yet there are those futuristic elements. How did you balance kind of the sci-fi with our real world?
Well, the idea was to try to do a relatable sci-fi. I don't even know if it's sci-fi anymore. I think this is going to happen very soon. And I'm more interested more than, writing thriller science fiction. It's more contemplative science fiction where the idea is to raise questions and for us to ask ourselves, is this the kind of future? This is much better. I'd rather not be in the spotlight. I'd rather see you guys. So yeah, it's just about raising questions about our relationship to technology, which I think it's getting a little bit unhinged. I'm also part of it. I'm on my phone all the time, and I wish we'll have more distance with the technology so we don't become slaves to the technology, but we use it as a tool, and it doesn't control us, but we actually control it. And I feel, it's one of my favorite philosophers, Baruch Spinoza, said in the 17th century, the more we think we control nature, the more nature reminds us that it's actually controlling us. And I think this was a big inspiration for this film, to feel that we think in our hubris we control so much, but in reality we're not that much in control of things.
Emilia Clarke's performance in this is fantastic, and we really feel her relationship with Chiwetel Ejiofor. Did you have any of them in mind while you were writing and making this film, or did that come in later in the casting process?
Well, that's always like the big hit or miss. You never know. Even the actors, I was talking to Emilia the other day and she was like, you never know, even as actors when they arrive on set, because at that level of casting you can't really audition them. When you're a director like me, you just have to be happy they say yes. And so it's like a big leap of faith, and you're allowed to do chemistry readings, which is a euphemism for you still have a chance to say you don't want them in your movie. But actually, we did a chemistry reading in London, and immediately I felt they had a connection. They never met each other, they never worked together, but something happened on set, and they immediately connected, and I feel they're very believable as a loving couple, and it worked out. But you never know; it's a hit or miss.
Well, I think it paid off very well in this film.
No, the intention on the page was to write a comedy, a satire, because I feel the best way to convey a message that is important to you as a writer is more through humor and satire than trying to hammer people with, your message. I mean, for some people find it very funny, some people find it's not funny at all. So it's just, humor is, again, it's hit or miss. Like you hope, you know, I stand in the back and I listen and I learn from my next film which jokes landed and which jokes didn't work. And a lot is in the editing process. It's very strange how you can change one thing in terms of comic timing and suddenly something gets very funny. And sometimes the joke is just flat and it doesn't work and you can't explain what it is. I think humor sometimes is just surprise or mechanical things, or there's an incredible philosopher called Bergson who wrote an essay about laughter, and he's trying to intellectualize what is funny. And when you read it, I mean, we don't know what makes humor, but on page I was hoping that it was funny, but some people read it and thought it was extremely creepy and dystopian and was not funny at all. So, who knows?
The film and the two distinct parts of it. I noticed the lens flares. Did you change cameras and lenses to get that effect?
Well, my husband is the DP and he'd be so happy because he's chasing those flares all the time when I'm like, focus on the characters, and he's like, put the flare here. So, that's an ongoing thing we have. He's in love with flares. I'm in love with actors.
Very unnerving and not
well, the thing is, as I was writing, because it took a while and then the pandemic happened, and every time I was reading, you know, The Wire and The Atlantic and all those magazines, and things that were in the film were already being tested and existing. So I was like, I'm just has-been. I mean, this is already too late, because the AI therapy is something that was developed at Stanford University, and students say they loved it more than human therapists because they didn't feel judged. So, and actually those therapists, if they can do machine learning and know the entire history of psychoanalysis, they would know more than a human therapist. So it's very unnerving, and I don't know, I don't have the answer to that, but I think the idea in the design was to make it very organic, because I feel in the future the line is going to be blurred between the technology that feels very human and very friendly. There's no reason why this eye should blink. It's not an eye, and has moist sounds. But we were having fun with the VFX company and the production designer, thinking, let's make it a little bit, you know, creepy in a way, but also because it commands your attention. It's an omnipotent intelligence that knows a lot. So you should focus to it and respect it. That's why we made the voice. We were lucky that we won the Dolby Atmos grant at Sundance, and we did a full Atmos thing where the voice is, it's supposed to be an immersive moment, and you should be a little bit scared of the artificial intelligence. And it's also a reference to HAL in 2001, which was one of my favorite films. But we had the VFX now that are accessible, so we could make it as a full eye, not just a lens. But you know, they say the eyes are the window of the soul, so maybe the eye has a soul somewhere, I don't know. No, we really had to shoot. We had a very small schedule and a tight budget, so when you have these kind of films that are a little bit visually ambitious for what we had to stick to the script, because we didn't have the actors. Actually, that's a really cool story. Chiwetel was expecting a baby as we were shooting, and we had an insurance for the pregnancy of his wife, because if she was giving birth too early, we had to shut down the production. And we gave him a month of parental leave so he could go be with his baby and come back to shoot the end of the film. But I think that's why he had all the hormones of pregnancy. He was very sensitive and he was very prepared, but he was super emotional, and I was thinking, oh my god, this is working really well for the film. but in those kind of small independent films, you don't have the luxury to improvise, and I think they're actors that are, both of them, they're very method actor. They know exactly, they're super prepared. Chiwetel knows exactly what he wants to do for each take, and then it's just a bit of fine-tuning the emotions. But yeah, it's basically the script. I wish we could do more improvisation, play more around, but we didn't have that luxury. Yeah, that's a really good question, because the meeting with the HR director is really based, a lot of this is actually all based on articles I read about what's happening in the Silicon Valley or in some high-tech companies, where a lot of companies have stepped into being sort of like healthcare providers for their employees, which part could be great, but it's also a little bit strange that a company gives female workers $10,000 to freeze their eggs as a service. That could be great, but at the same time, I think it's kind of the wrong message for women. Instead of saying, have a baby anytime and we'll support you, the message is like, don't have a baby now if you want to keep competitive with your male co-workers. Have a baby in 20 years when you'll be really tired. And so I just felt reading those articles, is it really feminism or is it corporations trying to get the best they can from their female workers? So that's why it's in the film in the form of just a little extrapolation, which is an egg, the big egg. But I don't have, again, the answers for this, but I feel feminism should be there to help women to be the woman they want to be and help them in their life and support them, like what they do maybe in Scandinavian countries, where even if you take parental leave, maternal leave, your job is still there for you. But in the US, it's extremely competitive, and I don't feel women are that supported. But there is a lot of feminism that is marketed. I don't know. I think I just want to start the debate about this because I feel it's a bit shocking. You know, even in the film industry, if you have a baby and you disappear for a little bit, no one calls you again. So it's tough. It's difficult for women. And I feel that's what I was trying to do with Rachel. She feels she's never going to please anyone. She's not going to please her office. And when she finally has the bud to please her company, they tell her she's a distracted mom. This is something that I read also in the press, that women who are bringing pictures of their babies were labeled distracted moms, and they're asked to remove the pictures from their desks. This is happening right now in the US. So I don't know, I think we have to talk about all these things to help women.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Hey, this is Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.